The morning sun filtered through the lush greenery surrounding Ly Tieu Nu's modest home, casting dappled light on a weathered wooden table and chairs set in the garden. The air carried the sweet scent of blooming flowers as a kind-hearted policeman, Officer Nguyen Van Truong, approached with a determined stride, his uniform crisp despite the early hour. Tieu Nu, a resilient single mother with a tired but hopeful smile, sat waiting, her young son Due playing nearby with a toy truck. Truong's heart raced as he joined her, the weight of a small velvet box in his pocket, a secret he could no longer keep. He reached for her hand, his touch gentle yet firm, and her eyes widened in surprise. "Tieu Nu, what do you think?" he asked, his voice soft but steady. She tilted her head, a blush creeping up her cheeks. "What's this on?" With a deep breath, Truong pulled out the box, flipping it open to reveal a gleaming gold ring that caught the sunlight. He slipped it onto her finger, his hands trembling slightly. "Will you marry me? Let's build a family together." Tieu Nu's eyes filled with tears of joy, her voice quivering. "Yes, An. I'd love to be your wife." Truong smiled, squeezing her hand. "Are you okay? You look overwhelmed." She laughed through her tears. "I'm just so happy, An. Yes, I'll marry you." Truong's gaze softened as he held her hand tighter. "Do you want to walk this life with me all the way?" Tieu Nu nodded eagerly. "Yes, An, I do." He leaned closer, his voice a promise. "Then from now on we're a family, me, you and Due." Her smile widened. "Yes, please put the ring on me." As he adjusted the ring, its gold band sparkling, he added, "No matter the struggles or hardships, I'll share them with you." Tieu Nu's eyes shone with gratitude. "Thank you, An. I'm so happy." Truong brushed a strand of hair from her face. "I won't let you struggle alone anymore. You deserve peace." Determined, she replied. "I'll work hard to build a happy home for us, An. As long as I'm healthy, that's enough for me." He shook his head gently. "You don't need to overwork. From now on, let me be Due's father. I promise to be a good husband and ensure you and Due never lack anything." Tieu Nu's heart swelled. "Due's always wanted a dad. Please treat us both with the kindness you show now." Truong nodded solemnly. "I promise. Due will be thrilled. He'll have a real father now." The thought of Due's future lit up Truong's face. "I'll take care of him as a father should. He'll go to school, have a good life. Let's raise him together to be better than we ever were." Tieu Nu clasped his hand. "With you guiding him, I know he'll grow into a fine person, An." Truong grinned. "Definitely. We'll do this together." Relief washed over her as she whispered, "I won't be a single mother anymore." Truong's eyes sparkled with a new idea. "If your parents knew, they'd be overjoyed." She nodded. "I think so too, An." He leaned in, his voice earnest. "I'm planning to buy land here, build a house, and stay instead of returning to the city. I'll bring you and Due to live with me. Will you agree?"
Tiểu nữ sơ phây lip úp.
"Yes, An." Eagerly, she added. "I'll work hard to help build our home." Truong shook his head. "I just need you and Due healthy and happy. I'll handle the rest, even if it's tough." He glanced at his watch. "I need to visit an old lady later." Tien mentioned her land. "I'll check the price and sort it out."
Tiểu nữ Mai.
"Don't worry about that, An. Just talk to me if it gets hard." Truong stood, adjusting his cap. "I'll pick up Due from school later. Stay home, tidy up, and don't go far. Okay?" She nodded. "Be careful, An. Bring Due back safely." As he walked away, Tieu Nu watched, her heart full. "I'll work hard to support An Truong. Never leave him to struggle alone." By midday, the sun blazed fiercely overhead, its golden rays baking the earth as Ly Tieu Nu stepped into her sprawling gourd patch, the vibrant green vines stretching across the fertile soil like a living tapestry. The air hummed with the soft buzz of bees darting among the blossoms, and the faint scent of ripe fruit mingled with the earthy aroma of the garden. Dressed in a faded blue shirt and a wide-brimmed hat to shield her from the heat, Tieu Nu carried a sturdy wicker basket, her hands moving with practiced ease as she began harvesting. She carefully selected the longest, plumpest gourds, her knife slicing through the stems with a satisfying snip, each fruit dropping into the basket with a gentle thud. The patch was a labor of love, its rows heavy with the season's yield, and she worked methodically, moving from one end to the other, her footsteps crunching on the dry soil. After filling her basket to the brim, sweat glistened on her brow, and she paused to wipe it away, sitting on a wooden bench under the shade of a nearby tree. The weight of her harvest felt like a small victory, a testament to her resilience as a single mother. Catching her breath, she hoisted the basket onto her shoulder and set off toward the city market, the path winding through the village with its dusty trails and chattering birds. At the bustling market, the air was thick with the clamor of vendors and the aroma of street food, grilled corn and steaming pho wafting through the crowd. Tieu Nu found a spot near a shady corner, arranging her gourds in neat piles, their glossy green skins catching the sunlight and drawing curious eyes. Word of her fresh produce spread quickly, and soon a steady stream of customers approached, elderly women haggling with warm smiles, young mothers buying in bulk, and even a few street vendors restocking their stalls. One buyer, a cheerful man in a straw hat, picked up 3 gourds. "How much co?" he asked.
Tiểu nữ tiếp lít, 10,000 a kilo, chú.
He nodded, adding 2 more. 5 kilos, then 50,000. Another woman carrying a toddler chimed in. "I'll take 10 kilos for my restaurant." Tieu Nu's hands moved swiftly, weighing and bagging, the coins piling up as her basket emptied. Her heart swelled with pride, the money a lifeline not just for her, but for the family she was building with Truong. Exhausted but elated, she called out to a nearby stall, "On a glass of iced lemon tea, please." The vendor handed her a cold, refreshing drink, and she sipped it gratefully, the tartness reviving her spirits. As she tended her stall, her phone buzzed in her pocket. Pulling it out, she answered, "Allo Truong, it's me. Are you free?" On the other line, Tien's voice crackled through. "Yeah, I am. Got a moment?" Tieu Nu leaned against her table, listening as Tien continued, "Come to Nox Cafe. I need to talk about something important." She smiled, imagining Truong's involvement, and focused back on her sales. A young girl approached, her eyes wide with curiosity. "Co, where'd you get these gourds? They're so fresh."
Tiểu nữ gờ rim.
"From my garden, 10,000 a kilo." The girl clapped her hands. "Really? Give me 2 kilos, please." Tieu Nu weighed them out. "That's 20,000 Thank you." The girl beamed. "You're amazing, co." Meanwhile, at Nox Cafe, Truong arrived, the cool interior a relief from the midday heat. He spotted Tien at a corner table, surrounded by a scatter of blueprints and a cup of tea. "Tien been waiting long?" he asked, sliding into a chair. Tien shook his head, pushing the papers toward him. "Just got here. I was at Tieu Nu's place, she's looking healthier. What'll you drink?" Truong ordered a black coffee with milk, the rich aroma filling the space. "Good to know. Why do you call me here?" Tien leaned in, his tone serious. "To discuss that land deal. Let's visit the old lady today. Check the price and terms. You free later?" Truong nodded, tapping the table. "Yeah, I was planning to ask her anyway. Let's make it happen." Tien smiled, handing him the blueprints. "Great. Take a look at these house designs. Thought they'd suit the plot. Truong flipped through the pages, admiring a modern Thai-style villa with wide verandas and lush gardens. This is stunning, perfect for the land. Budget's tight though. I'll buy the plot first, build next year or so.
Tien nodded, approving.
Smart move. Oh, and congrats on proposing to Tieu Nu. I heard she said yes. Truong's face lit up, a proud grin spreading. She did. I'll work hard to make her and Due happy. Get him into a good school, give them stability. Tien patted his shoulder. If you need anything, I'm here. You've got a family now. Truong sighed, his expression softening. Just wish my mom were here. She's on a long work trip. She'd be over the moon about Tieu Nu. Tien offered a sympathetic nod. Hope she's safe out there. At least Tieu Nu's health is back on track. That's a load off your mind. Truong sipped his coffee, the warmth grounding him. Let's head to the old lady's place soon. Close by. Tien confirmed. Yeah, just a short walk from here. Truong glanced at the designs again. These are gorgeous. I'll use them if I build. Hold on to them for me. Tien laughed, tucking the papers away. Safe with me. Ready to go. Truong paid for their drinks, leaving a generous tip. Yeah, let's move. Back at the market, Tieu Nu served another customer, a burly man with a basket. 10,000 a kilo, Tieu. 2 kilos is 20,000. The day's earnings grew, her spirit lifting with each transaction, unaware of the plans unfolding for her future home. As the late afternoon sun dipped low, casting a warm amber glow over the quaint village, Officer Nguyen Van Truong and his friend Tien sat in the cozy corner of a local cafe. The air rich with the aroma of freshly brewed coffee and the faint hum of a ceiling fan. The wooden table between them was cluttered with architectural blueprints, detailed sketches of a Thai-style villa with sloping roofs, wide verandas adorned with potted plants, and a spacious garden where children could play. Truong ran a finger along the lines of the design, his eyes alight with a vision of the future. This is exactly what I want for Tieu Nu and Due, he said, his voice thick with determination. A real home, a place where we can build memories. Tien, adjusting his glasses, nodded with a grin. It's perfect for that plot. Let's go secure the land today. I've got the deposit ready, for 100 million to start. Truong clapped Tien on the shoulder, a spark of gratitude in his eyes. You've been a huge help, Tien. Let's make this happen. With a shared nod of resolve, they gathered the blueprints and stepped out into the cooling evening, the gravel path crunching under their shoes as they made their way to the modest home of Bong Nguyen Thi, an elderly woman whose solitary life had led her to this moment of letting go. Ba Nan's house sat at the edge of the village, its faded wooden walls surrounded by a garden where wilted flowers struggled against the dry season. As they approached, she emerged from the doorway, her frail frame leaning on a cane, her face etched with deep lines but softened by a welcoming smile. Come in, sit down," she said warmly, gesturing to a pair of weathered chairs on her porch, the wood creaking under their weight as they settled. A faint breeze carried the scent of jasmine, mingling with the earthy aroma of the nearby fields. Truong began, his tone respectful yet earnest. "Ba Tien told me you're selling your land. I'd like to buy the entire plot if you're willing." Ba Nan nodded slowly, her hands resting on her knees, the knuckles gnarled from years of toil. "Yes, I'm selling it all. It's about 17 meters, though I haven't measured it in a long time. My eyes aren't sharp anymore," Tien interjected. "We'll measure it properly to be sure." Truong works at the local police station. He's serious about this deal. Truong added, I came by with Tien a few days ago to see it. It's spacious with good sunlight and room for a house and garden. It's perfect for my family. Are you living here alone, Ba? Her gaze drifted to the empty yard, a flicker of sadness crossing her face. Just me now. My children are gone and I've no one else. It's too quiet here. The weight of her solitude hung heavy in the air, tugging at Truong's heart. He leaned forward, his voice gentle but firm. How much are you asking for the land, Ba? Banan thought for a moment, her lips pursed as she calculated. 40 million per meter, she said finally, her voice steady despite her age. Tien pulled out a small notepad, scribbling quickly. 17 meters. That comes to around 780 million. Truong nodded, impressed by the fairness of the price. That's reasonable. But are you absolutely certain you want to sell? It's a big decision. Banan's eyes grew distant, her fingers tightening on her cane. I'm sure. I'm old now, no point holding on to it. I can't tend the land anymore, and there's no one left to pass it to. It's time to let go. Her words carried a quiet resolve, and Truong felt a pang of sympathy for the loneliness she endured. He exchanged a determined look with Tien. Then I'll buy it. Let's do the deposit now to seal the agreement. He stood, stepping outside to his parked motorcycle, where he unlocked a small metal box in the saddlebag. Returning with a thick stack of cash, he placed it on the table with care. I'll pay 400 million up front. We'll settle the remaining 380 million once all the papers are finalized. Banan waved a hand, her trust evident in her tired eyes. No need to count, I trust you boys. You seem like good people. Tien pulled out a contract form from his bag, his pen poised as he began drafting the agreement. Ba, may I have your full name? He asked, glancing up. Nguyen Thi Nan, she replied softly. Born in 1922. Tien nodded, his pen moving swiftly across the page. He wrote, Bang Nguyen Thi Nan agrees to transfer land plot number 5, map 13, to Nguyen Van Truong for a total of 780 million dong, with an initial deposit of 400 million dong paid today. He read the document aloud, his voice clear and deliberate, ensuring every detail was correct. Does this sound right, Ba? She adjusted her shawl, nodding slowly. Yes, that's fine by me. They proceeded to sign, Truong's signature bold and confident, followed by Banan's trembling scrawl, her hand shaking slightly as she pressed the pen to the paper. Tien added his signature as a witness, then looked at Banan with reassurance. I'll handle the paperwork and take you to the police station tomorrow to confirm everything officially. We'll make sure it's all proper. Banan smiled weakly, a glimmer of relief in her eyes. Thank you, you're good boys. It's a comfort to know the land will go to someone who'll use it well. As they packed up, Truong reflected aloud. She's so old and alone, it makes sense for her to sell. The price is fair, even generous considering the location. Tien agreed, folding the contract carefully. She has no family to care for her. It's a sad situation, but this is probably for the best. Truong added. With no relatives, she likely just wants to let go of the burden. It's practical, but it's heartbreaking to see her so isolated. He stood, stretching his shoulders, the tension of the day easing slightly. I need to check on a construction site nearby, then pick up Dewey from preschool. Tien, thanks for everything. Let's meet again soon with Tieu Nu and Dewey to celebrate this step forward. Tien waved, a grin spreading across his face. Safe travels and congratulations again on your engagement. You're building a beautiful future. Truong smiled. the weight of his new responsibilities feeling lighter with Tien's support. At the preschool, the late afternoon sun cast long shadows across the playground, where the joyful shouts of children filled the air. Truong arrived just as the kids were finishing their outdoor playtime, his eyes scanning for Due. He spotted the boy sliding down a colorful plastic slide, his small frame bouncing with uncontainable energy, his laughter ringing like a bell. Due, let's go home to Mom, Truong called, waving with a wide grin. Dewey's face lit up at the sight of him, his eyes sparkling. Bah! He shouted, scrambling down the slide and running into Truong's arms. Truong scooped him up, ruffling his hair. Having fun, huh? Let's play a bit more before we go. They spent a few minutes at the slide, Truong cheering as Due went down again and again. Good job, Due. Slide one more time, careful now. Due giggled, his cheeks flushed with excitement, but after a few more rounds, his energy began to wane. Tired? Truong asked, kneeling beside him. Due nodded, clutching a small toy car he'd been carrying all day. Truong stood, lifting Due into his arms. Time to go see Mom Tieu Nu. Ready to go home? Due nodded again, resting his head on Truong's shoulder as they waved goodbye to the teacher. BB, go! Due called, his voice soft but cheerful, and the teacher smiled warmly. Goodbye, Due. See you tomorrow. Truong secured Dewey's tiny helmet, settling him on the front of the motorcycle, the boy's small hands gripping the handlebars with a sense of adventure. As they rode back through the village, the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. The cool evening breeze brushed against them, carrying the scent of rice fields and blooming flowers. Truong's heart swelled with a quiet joy. He was no longer just a policeman, but a father, a husband-to-be, a man building a family. The land deal was a promise, a foundation for the life he wanted to give Tieu Nu and Due. And as the village faded into the twilight behind them, he felt a renewed sense of purpose. The future was theirs to shape, one careful, loving step at a time.
Dude was crying as I told the story of my own husband's battle with cancer and chronic pain. As unquote, I'm used to asking people what they have learned from their experiences, so it was natural for me to ask her for advice on what happened her deal with the crushing grief. Obviously, she has been doing something right to be so full of vitality and joy after such a short time. She described it, her travels around the world with sparkling eyes and her plans for the next year with a joyful smile. What a contrast to how I was. Phyllis had been so open with me. I felt encouraged her to ask her